Nadine Ellis, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You left high school early, finished high school. This would be equivalent to a general education diploma or GED in the United States in your 30s, completed multiple college degrees, and became an academic, all while raising three children in a hostile marital environment. What inspired you to keep going through what were clearly challenging times and become an academic?
Wow, you've compressed my life in just a couple of sentences. I actually have four children now. My fourth was from a second marriage, so life obviously has got back on the tracks very nicely for me. I think, oh wow, there's a lot in there to unpack. I think what basically, where can we start? Let's start with I had three small children under 3 years old. The marriage is just falling to bits. And unfortunately, I had left high school early. And I got to the point where I just really felt I needed to be financially responsible for my kids, or to at least be able to be financially responsible for my own living. And that meant actually going back to high school as an adult, as you've mentioned, and then progressing through literally taking the kids to school myself and then going to school myself and trying to sort of work my hardest in between lunch and breaks and then pick the kids up. And, life was just a turmoil. But the ends to the means was to be able to have a career in some sort of way of being able to sort of be financially, what's the word I'm trying to actually think of? Anyway, I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. So I kind of fell into being a radiographer after finishing my medical radiations degree. So I was actually working as a radiographer for a decade or so before I actually fell into academia. But while I was working as a radiographer, I then started doing my postgraduate studies as well, and found I actually really liked being a student. And all that time also fell into the writing. The writing for me was my way of just clearing my brain and trying to work out how life was sort of happening. And then by means of getting all that stuff out of my head and putting it on paper enabled me to sort of become more resilient, sort of work out where I fit in life and how I could be a good role model for my kids. And somewhere along the line, I actually found out I was sort of not too bad at this and started actually being published as a poet. So this all happened back in the 90s. So the writing was always there, but life kind of took more precedence because at the time with the three young children and then the fourth coming along and academia, life does actually sort of, you have to give a focus somewhere. But thankfully, I've actually just retired from academia, and this has enabled me to sort of go back to my true love of actually being creative and writing. So I'm here in a quick sort of nutshell because of my new book, The Grey Between. So I don't know if I think I've digressed. I'm sorry, Aaron. You might need to pull me up a little bit if I have
You set me up for the next question very well. Without spoiling too much of your poetry collection, which, as you said, is called The Grey Between, how many poems are in the collection? And if there's an overarching theme to the collection, what is it?
Okay, so there's actually 111 poems. It's a 136-page book. So I guess the overarching themes, in no particular order, I cover love, loss, grief, betrayal, acceptance, perseverance. So basically, I'm just writing about trauma in everyday life, and the book itself is sort of documenting my 30-odd years of interactions with people, what they did, how I reacted, and the resolutions to sort of keep moving forward, along with a little bit of venom in between, just a little bit of spice. So yeah, it's just poetic. I write in contemporary free verse. So, and yeah, like I said, it's just basically, I write a lot of the time just for me, just to sort out what's going on in my head and get it out, and sort of being able to sort of look back upon what's going on gives me a more sort of cathartic sort of means to be expressive. Yeah. I'm happy to read a poem. Can I read a poem for you?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So the book itself is divided into three sections. We've got as you know, The Grey Between is the title. Then we've got Somewhere Between is the first part. Then I've got a section called The White, and then the last section is called The Black. So this is a poem called Viscid. This is from the White section. With lavish intrigue for honey and its viscosity, I'd unfurl the curtsies to the ballet clock and scamper downstairs to the delectable honey shop, lined with buckets of tenacious fluid, amber-hued aquariums filled with the exotic, acacia, leatherwood, turn the little plastic handle, release a ropey twirl of sugar heaven, roll the thick mix of bee and flower in my mouth, like a venacious swirl of Merlot to a gentleman, a honey vigneron at 8. And then pedal the half-hour back, tripping across Miller's Yard to where lilting wax swelled to 2 trolleys of hives, parked along the boundary fence, 3 boxes per flat top, with caster wheels for manoeuvrability or ease of distance. I watch the confetti of bees wisp into their compound and feel their buzz wrap my skin till my mother's voice outbuzz the bees calling me home. 27 years pass, and I smear cold-pressed sweetness across my toast. Honey my father extracted from grandfather's hives. Hives I've never seen, but when the honey rubs against my tongue, I feel the paint flakes give way to my fingers as I brush along the box and see the bees panic as we puff the smoke into their hexagonal lives, tricking their viscid wealth from them in the haze of manufactured fire. They fly blind to the truth, wanting to save their vital fluids, and then collectively give over what they made but was always never theirs. And tomorrow I hold my thumbnail to the horizon, and its width is hot fuchsia pink, a paint spill bleeding out to burnished orange as the morning rises to new flowers, and I will suck the pollen from their flower pits and share the honey's essence with the bees. Thank you.
My next question is it accurate to say that writing poetry became your way of processing pain and trauma?
Yes, it really was. I think it was my way of documenting what was going on. I found it very difficult to actually verbally express the things that I was experiencing. And for me, being able to just write things down on paper enabled for it to get out of me, so I wasn't sort of holding that pain and anger in, but also it gave me an opportunity to just really sort of understand what was going on because of the process of getting it out of my head and onto the paper. So yeah, like I said, it was kind of like a means of survival for me and catharsis as well. But it also helped me to understand that I liked that form of creativity that it enabled, but it also gave me an opportunity to actually share my experiences with other people. And that way I sort of understood that it wasn't just happening to me, that these sort of things happen to many people. And it was a great way of sort of reaching out to people and letting them also know that they're not alone. And there are ways of moving through life. If bad things happen to you, like traumatic events or abuse or things like to that effect, it's okay to be sad or upset at the time, but you also need to recognize that you don't have to stay in that mindset. and everyone has the ability in some form to be able to move through it. It's just recognizing how to do that. And for me, it was writing. Other people, it could be anything as simple as like painting or gardening, growing flowers, or something that gives them a sense of peace and brings joy to them. Even the small, tiny little things sometimes are enough to help us get through these awful times. So, yeah. I don't know. Did I digress? I think I digressed again. I'm terribly sorry.
You didn't digress. How did writing about deeply personal topics like abuse and motherhood impact your own healing process?
Well, I think, like I said, it just enabled me to actually work through it, and not hold that pain inside. I've never wanted to be one that sort of held things in, but like I said too, I found it very difficult to actually speak about things with people. Although my writing is very what's the word? I expose myself very much on the paper. But I think when you write poetry, the people that read it need to bring their own life experiences to the reading, and I think that's when you start resonating with those words. It's what you bring to it when you read somebody else's words. But yeah, I think some sometimes we don't have people that we can necessarily talk to, but finding a way to sort of be able to sort of still communicate will help. And for me, it was being able to write things down. And at the time when the children were very young, my writing was more about motherhood and experiencing pregnancy and miscarriage and just daily family existence. And then when I got older, it was more about my life experiences and understanding how people were impacted upon me. And then this realization that often it wasn't me that was creating these sort of circumstances. It was just people being people, and understanding that often we just have to accept the people around us at face value. And some are worth staying with and some are better off, letting them go. And for me, writing was like this self-preservation sort of way of getting through life. Yeah.
While your writing talks about deeply personal topics like abuse and motherhood, it also tackles everyday challenges that many people can relate to at the same time. How do you find inspiration in the ordinary?
Look, I don't know that it depends on what you call ordinary, Aaron. I think we all have a sense of the world around us, and look, I myself, I am neurodivergent. I have autism, and I didn't actually have this diagnosed until my late 50s. I've just turned 60 now. So for me, my whole life was a bit out of sync with everybody else around me. And I just never really understood why. And having had that formal diagnosis has just sort of given me this sense of peace, because I suddenly realized, well, there's a community out there that I actually fit into, and there's lots of people like me out there. But a form of, well, not a form, like a symptom of being autistic for me was I couldn't really verbalize what I was feeling, but I was a very feeling person. So for me, mundane, everyday things may not necessarily be the same for the next person, but it is just what happens every day. And these are the things that happen to everybody. We all get up, we all get dressed, we all sort of go do something and feed ourselves and go to work if we're lucky to have a job, and come home at the end of the day, interact with people. So, yeah, it can be seen as mundane, but some beautiful things can happen in those quiet little moments, or just being one in nature and just sitting quietly and just seeing the world, listening to the birds and watching the wind sweep the leaves. And I think those are the things that I feel I notice, and and sometimes I like to just sit and watch people and, just be a people watcher. And I think it's the whole, it's what you make of it. I'm talking for myself, but I try to see the beauty in everything around me. And I think having 60 years under my belt, I've experienced a lot of things. And so I've got lots of material to draw on. Like I said, I've got four daughters. They're all grown up now. So they have their own life challenges that I can draw on. I've had my own experiences, two marriages, second marriage now. Work experiences, there's always something to sort of draw on, and we always come across people. And I like to sort of, I'm not very good with small talk, but I like to sit and have a deep conversation with someone that I'm comfortable with. And people are fascinating. They've all got some stories, and it's this sort of rubbing up against my life and resonating with them, and then that gives me a memory that I can draw on, or just things like that. So I think everybody's got a story, and even if they think it's not very interesting, it's interesting. It really is. So yeah, life is special. And I think the bottom line is everyone we just need to be a little bit more kinder with ourselves and be accepting of the people around us. And like I said before, if bad things happen to us, it's okay to feel that pain in that moment, but what defines us is more how we move through it, and how we sort of become stronger for it. Yeah.
Is your poetry collection independently, traditionally, or hybrid published? And what was it like getting your poetry collection published?
Oh, okay. So I am traditionally published through Hill of Content Publishing. So that was just delightful, absolutely delightful. It's so surreal when he wants to publish you. I've had lots of my poetry published a long time ago, like I said, in the 90s when I started writing formally. So I had lots of sort of single poems published in literary journals and anthologies throughout America and throughout Australia, where I'm from. But this is my first collection now that I have been able to retire from academia, and my time is my own basically now, that I can sort of really just wallow in writing, which is just such a privilege. And yes, so luckily Hill of Content saw something in my writing, and they offered to publish me globally, which is such an honor. So yeah, here we are. So the book itself is out now and available globally via Amazon and Barnes and Noble and a few other places. So yeah, it's like I said, I think it's one of those things where I have to sort of like pinch myself a little bit and say, yeah, this is actually happening now. So yeah, it's nice. I think having the opportunity to sort of go back to something that I really enjoyed doing, and that helped me get through tough parts during my life, it's nice to sort of have that opportunity to sort of do that. And I think everybody sort of should try and find something that sort of gives them a little bit of joy in their life and have that opportunity to pursue it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm traditionally published.
One final question to finish this interview. Do you believe that making peace with one's own past is a key to personal transformation and healing?
Yeah, I do. I think, yeah, it's about, I think at the bottom line is it's about understanding that I think a lot of the trouble is we expect people to be somebody that they're not, or we have this sort of picture in our head of how people should be. And a lot of people don't understand that until much later in life. And I think luckily for me, that's the realization that I came to probably in my early 20s, that people often present to you actually as they are. And the key for happy relationships or good relationships with the people around you is to actually accept them at face value. They are who they are, and we can't change people. What we can do for ourselves is realize that or have that realization. I have digressed. I'm just going to try and get back onto what you were. Sorry, would you just give me one more time, Aaron, what your question was?
Do you believe that making peace with one's own past is a key to personal transformation and healing, and why or why not?
Yeah. So thank you for repeating that. Yeah, and I think we have the ability to make peace. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to go around saying, "Oh, yeah, I forgive you," or confronting people about what they've done to us. I think that's for me, that's not something that makes me feel comfortable about doing, and I don't feel I have a need to do that. But for me, I think this sort of realization that, okay, that person did that and that was not good for me. That was disrespectful. That was bad, sort of dysfunctional behavior, etc., etc. I don't want to replicate that. I choose to withdraw myself, and I will move on. And for me, it's this sort of, yep, I recognize that. I don't want to be around that. I'll let that go. And for me, that has worked. But I do know some people do have to confront, and I do know some people actually physically or verbally have to say their sorries or have to ask for forgiveness, etc. For me, that doesn't work. But I think this sort of, well, it's recognizing that there are moments in your life that have actually helped form who you are today, or I'm talking for myself, sorry, that without those experiences, we aren't who we are. So it's a bittersweet sort of struggle. You need that sort of mud and crap to sort of wade through to be able to see the beauty on the other side and appreciate the good things without having, like, I find it's harder to appreciate the good things without having experienced the bad things along the way. So for me, like I said, it is a bittersweet sort of thing, but for me, it worked by sort of being able to sort of move through bad situations, understand what was going on, not necessarily, like I said, about forgiving people, but it's just accepting it was what it was, and I have the ability to be resilient and create who I want to be moving through that.
Nadine, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You are a wonderful guest to interview.
Thank you very much, Aaron. My pleasure.
This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.